Sitting here looking down on the bright lights of the town, I'm watching fireflies playing tag and trying hard to keep my mind from wandering where it has no business being. Close my eyes but always seeing memories I thought I'd left behind. Guess who's on my mind tonight? Oh Lord, I'm crazy, thinking things might work out right, and someday maybe all this dreaming I've been doing might come true for me and you, and I could hold you in my arms once more, baby. Yes, I know I promised I'd not think about it, for you asked me to forget the love we shared. You said that that's the thing to do. Well, darling, I've been trying awfully hard, and I'll make out all right. But honey, guess who's on my mind tonight? Guess who's on my mind tonight? Oh Lord, I'm crazy, thinking things might work out right, and someday maybe all this dreaming I've been doing might come true for me and you, and I could hold you in my arms once more, baby. I could hold you in my arms once more, baby.
Drinking old Jack with water back, cooling off a summer day, telling them tales about being in jail when the jukebox started to play. Something about going to Texas instead of heaven when you die. They all agreed that it sure be neat, but I jumped up and cried. Don't bury me on the long prairie, I don't want to go that far. Put that hearse in reverse and take me to the nearest bar. Dig me a hole by a telephone pole and cover me up with sand. Bury me close to a tavern house and I'll die a happy man. Mark off a spot in the parking lot just below the neon sign, but leave my Cadillac parked out back in case I change my mind. And if I don't show when it's time to go and they're waiting at the pearly gate, just send a telegram and tell them who I am, and they know I'm going to be late. Don't bury me on the long prairie, I don't want to go that far. Put that hearse in reverse and take me to the nearest bar. Why don't you dig me a hole by a telephone pole and cover me up with sand, and bury me close to a tavern house and I'll die a happy man. Yeah, bury me close to a tavern house and I'll die a happy man. Don't hold on to things like old pictures dream. Don't read those old letters again. Just cling to the heart that lies warm in your heart. Let the rest blow away.
stay still and let him to rest in your soul. There's no way to go. You can turn back the years. Just take a deep breath and let go. Don't hold on to things like old pictures you read. Don't read those old letters again. Just cling to the heart that lies warm in your home. Let the rest go away in the wind. Bright those old memories yesterday still and let them to rest in your soul. There's no way to go. You can turn back the years. Just take a deep breath and let go. Oh, just take a deep breath and let go.
Life is a hard blowing wind. Life is a hard blowing wind. It can blow you down, but you'll get up again. Life is a hard blowing wind. Under the best of conditions, life is a tough road to hoe. We all have to pay our tuition till we've had enough time to grow. While we're learning our lessons, we stumble and get up again. We learn how to crawl, we learn how to bend. Life is a hard blowing wind. Life is a hard blowing wind. Life is a hard blowing wind. It can blow you down, but you'll get up again. Life is a hard blowing wind. Sometimes the thunder and lightning frighten the sunshine away. Those who are wise set some dreams aside to get by on a cold day. Nobody said that was easy. Some of us lose, but some win. I think the secret's in knowing life's always a hard blowing wind. Life is a hard blowing wind. Life is a hard blowing wind. It can blow you down, but you'll get up again. Life is a hard blowing wind. Life is a hard blowing wind. Life is a hard blowing wind. It can blow you down, but you'll get up again. Life is a hard blowing wind.
I had 3 brothers, they all outgrew me. I was a short girl, but they all grew tall. They were all different, although they were brothers. The singer, the sailor, and blue-collar Paul. One joined the Navy, one went to Nashville, one stayed in Nebraska and answered the call. A blue-collar worker, nose to the grindstone. Life wasn't easy for our blue-collar Paul. One wrote some hit songs and made lots of money. One worked every day with his back to the wall. One went to college and learned electronics. The singer, the sailor, and blue-collar Paul. Gave up on living when his woman left him, and he'd never done too much living at all. I found this old picture today in the attic. The singer, the sailor, and blue-collar Paul. Now the singer's still singing, the sailor's still sailing, and me, I'm still short, still wish I was tall. We've come back together to circle the wagons and pay our respects to our blue-collar Paul. I had 3 brothers, all 3 outgrew me. I was a short girl, but they all grew tall. They were all different, though they were brothers. The singer, the sailor, and blue-collar Paul.
you're tangled in strings or caught up in emotional things. So she packed up her feelings and planned out loud, but she misjudged the distance when she left that night. And she landed on Broadway, still holding her dreams, but the wind kept them hired on the way. She moaned and stormed, that was blowing down. She said a chorus and she won't turn around. She still writes a song for you, still hears the hymn, but the wind kept them hired on the way. Once she built a nest and then she rested a while. She took a lover, fathered a child, and when he died in the winter, she cried in the spring, and then she had to start over again. And now that she's over, the wind is long and better, can't cut remember in most of the song. For she still remembers what made her heart sing. The wind has been hard on the wind. She's moaned and scorned, have a love man down. She said a chorus and she would not turn around. She still writes a song and you can still hear it sing. But the wind has been hard on the wind. Yes, the wind has been hard on the wind.
Would you look at what's in Monday morning's paper? It says old Henry Wilkins died with his own hand. And the sheriff said the note that he found pinned there to the pillow said, I can't live without your love, Joanne. It goes on to say Joanne was quite a woman. Some say a lot more woman than Henry was a man. The lawyer said his total work was right at $500,000. He survived by his widow, Joanne. Joanne, do you think we should send flowers? Don't you suppose that it would be the proper thing to do? After all, Henry owned the richest farmland in the valley, and it was mighty nice of him to leave it all to you. No, I never really cared for Henry, but I sure envy him a lot, 'cause he owned all the land. He had the finest string of purebred coon dogs in the valley, but most of all I wanted you, Joanne. Well, I'll drive you into town and make arrangements. They'll probably want a statement signed about his suicide. There's just one thing that gets my car about this situation. He could have got the crops in before he died. Joanne, do you think we should send flowers? Don't you suppose that it would be the proper thing to do? After all, Henry owned the richest farmland in the valley, And it was mighty nice of him to leave it all to you.
Hot Licks, the world leader in video and audio music instruction, now helps you be the best you can be with lessons by some of the biggest stars in music today. No matter what instrument you play, regardless of your level, you simply can't help but improve with these incredible jam-packed tapes. You'll find that Hot Licks videos are of the highest visual and audio quality and feature helpful items such as split screen, extreme close-ups, and even though you don't have to read music to learn from any of these tapes, most feature the music and tablature right on the screen. Don't be fooled by our imitators. Hot Licks is the original, and we are dedicated to always bringing you the best in tape musical instruction. Let the best make you better on the tapes that really teach. Hot Licks.
Her big blue eyes are filling up, knowing that I'm leaving her behind. Things won't be the same here on the farm. She even helped me pack my stuff, taking all my Levi's off the line. Before she went to pieces in my arms, oh, she loves a rolling river, and she tries to understand. You can't own a rolling river or hold a rambling man. The blood-red sun is coming up, breathing life into the cotton fields, and I can see her waving me goodbye as she watches that old pickup truck kicking up the dust around my wheels. Then she turns away so I won't see her cry. Oh, she loves a rolling river, and she tries to understand. You can't own a rolling river or hold a rambling man. Hi, I'm Max D. Barnes. Welcome to the Hot Licks video. I was about 10 or 11 years old, and when I first got, to listening to the Grand Ole Opry, we had an old battery radio, which is kind of giving away my age here, but it was great. You could pick up WSM was about all you could get in the Grand Ole Opry on Saturday night, and so I started hearing, Roy Acuff and the Delmore Brothers, and some of those the acts like that back then, and I remember Grandpa Jones and Ernest Tubb and Hank Williams, and well, he came along a little later, but I got to loving country music, and you don't know why you love a certain kind of music. It's something that creeps into your soul, and or at least it did with me. And so my older brother had liked to sing and sing country music, and my sister did too. They were both older than I. And my sister had an old guitar, had 3 strings on it, and she taught me how to play, taught me a few chords. And I remember the
the old song. The very first song I ever learned was "Here, rattler, here, 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 rattler, here. Call old rattler from the barn, here, rattler, here." You know, to a 3-chord song, and that's kind of the way it started. And I guess you never. It's like your first love. You never forget the first one that you learned how to play. You know, the first your first love. You know, it's the first person you love. I wanted to be a cowboy. Is what I wanted to be, but. You know, kids, you want to be a fireman, you want to be a policeman, you want to be all those things, a soldier, things like that. And, you know, so as you go down the road of life, it just kind of, you know, I think God kind of leads you through things where you are supposed to go. And we don't understand, I don't think, until later on as you get older, why you went through this and why you went through that to get to this spot where you're at today. And I'm a firm believer that you have to go through a lot of negative things and things that you wonder, why me? You know, why is this happening to me? Because this isn't, you know, really a neat thing. But I think you have to go through those to appreciate the good things in life. And I think in my case, what I figured out, I believe to be true, is you have to, I think it was like research. I was doing research, you know, to live some of these things and go through these things, the negatives in life, and also the positive things, and to come to, because like I was 35 years old before I ever moved to Nashville, to start being a writer, which is like, you know, changing horses in the middle of the stream. I'd driven truck for 10 years, and which is a career in itself, you know. Drove trucks all over the United States, and part of that was my learning experience. And so all the things that you go through, I think, kind of sets you up for, gives you a lot of ammunition to work with when you're going to write songs. And so I do believe that that was what it was in my case. Our daughter was getting married, and our oldest son had just went in the Navy at the same time, so which left us with one child to raise instead of 3. And so Patsy said, "This is the, you know, if we're ever going to make that move for you," and she believed in me more than I believed in me, and she said, "You know, if we're ever going to make that move to Nashville, now would be the time to do it." And so we sold our house and loaded up the truck, and away we went, and landed in Nashville, really green as Iowa corn. I mean, we just, you know, we didn't know anything about what we were doing here. And but I think part of that, you know, the old saying, ignorance is bliss, I believe is very true. Because if I knew then what I do now, I would have probably just thrown my hands up and said, "I'll never make it. I can't do this. There's too many people trying to get in this little pigeonhole." And so I probably wouldn't have never even tried it, because the odds are astronomical, I guess. But it's kind of like when I mow my yard out here, it's looking at the whole thing, I go, "Oh God, I'll never get through this," you know. But if you take a little patch and you do that little patch and then move on to another little patch and stuff, then it's not so bad. And you know, otherwise you'd let your lawn grow up, you know, pretty tall out there before you got around to getting it cut. Actually, I was very fortunate in getting a cut by a major act soon after I was here. I'd only been here about 6 or 8 months, and Charlie Pride cut one of my songs. And I'd met a ventriloquist who worked on Charlie Pride's show on his tour with him, and the fellow was he liked my singing and songwriting, and he said that he would take one of my songs to Charlie, and he did. And as a matter of fact, Charlie and Rosine signed me to my first job as a writer. I wrote for Roz Tense Music, which is owned by Charlie's wife, Rosine. and her sister. And so that was back in 73, I think it was. And so actually, once you have one major act cut one of your songs, it makes it a little easier. It gives you some credibility with somebody else to say, well, I have a Charlie Pride cut under my belt. And so then, you know, it makes them think, well, it's, you know, this guy has got to be, you know, just not somebody else, you know, off the street. Which actually, I mean, it does take a long time for that to germinate and grow, you know, but it does kind of snowball too, because, you know, once you get the next one and the next one and the next one, it all becomes part of your base foundation, and each one of those gives you a little more credibility. So it only took me 20 years to be an overnight success. A little short story about it. I was still driving a truck at the time when I wrote that, and I remember I got the idea for it coming back from California. I was on top of Sherman Pass there in, right outside Cheyenne, and when the idea hit me, and it's like 20 some miles down to the truck stop in Cheyenne where I had to refuel, and I had this song pretty well together in my head, wrote it coming down that hill. So when I got to the truck stop, I wrote it down on my logbook, and somewhere I think I have the lyrics on that song written on the back pages of my logbook. So it'd be interesting to see if I'm pretty sure I saved that. And but anyway, that was the song, and it was just kind of neat that was the first one that got recorded here. It was a struggle. As a matter of fact, it's still a struggle, you know, 20 years later, because, you know, it's like the songs have to stand on their own, no matter what your credibility is. What you can do is you have the credibility to get in the door and play it for somebody. But once you get in that door, you got to deliver with a song that's right. So it doesn't matter how many other songs you've had cut or how many number ones you've had or whatever. They're not going to cut the song just because you wrote it, just because you've had a lot of hits. And I can vouch for that, because you know, although I've had a lot of songs recorded, it's still a crapshoot every time, you know, whether they're going to take one or not. And the percentage is not much higher now of getting songs recorded than it was when I first came here. So.
And going back to when we had met about a month ago, you said something interesting about this process by which artists will hold a song, kind of put a song on hold. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
It's well, what they mean by that is that they like it well enough to at least run it by the artist or the producer, whichever one has it. Will run it by the other one to see if they like it. Something has clicked with them to make them give it that interest in it. And when they do put it on hold, that means that the company, the publishing company, or the writer can't pitch that song to somebody else until they take that off hold. And that's a good thing, because if you had, you know, like some songs get, I think it was The Gambler had like 5 records out on it at the same time. Everybody wanted to cut The Gambler, you know, and so everybody just did, and nobody was coordinating who did or who didn't. So there would have been a great example of somebody should have put that on hold so nobody else could have done it. There was a time in my life when, you know, I'd been like singing in clubs and, you know, like 6 nights a week gigs. And I would do that for a few months, and I'd, you know, it really didn't pay enough money to really make it work right for me. And so I would then go back on the road as a driver, where I could make like twice as much money. And, you know, and then the music would call me back, you know, and I'd be out there driving, you know, for a couple of years, and I'd have to get back on the stage. And and sing again, you know, just to feed that part of my ego and stuff. And at the time, I wasn't writing all that much then, but it was, the influences were like Merle Haggard, George Jones, Johnny Cash, Roger Miller, you know. Of course, he's like this little, my alter ego type thing that gets on my shoulder and makes me say funny things, you know. I mean, he is such a funny man, and you know, he will be greatly missed in not only my life but everybody's life that he touched. He was just one of the most unique people that I ever knew in my life, and so quick. He was on a plateau all by himself. There was nobody else like him. It's like when God made him, he just broke the mold. There was just one Roger Miller.
That's right.
And so, you know, like I used to do a single act in some of the clubs, and he had those songs that you could do that with. In summertime when all the trees and leaves are green, and the redbirds sing, I'll be blue. She don't want my love. You know, just had those great things. Got a letter just this morning. It was postmarked on my hall. It was tight and neatly written, offering me a better job. You know, he had these great, they just bounced along, you know, these great songs. I think I screwed the words up there. Typed and neatly written is what I meant to say. But you know, and then the ballads, I just was so touched and everything. Merle Haggard is the ballad singer to me. I mean, he just got the most natural voice I've ever heard on anybody. He does it effortlessly and this wonderful quality about his voice. And I just fell in love with his music, you know. So, you know, at that time we hadn't even had a record player, and when Merle's album started coming out, we went and bought a new stereo, and all the Merle Haggard records we could find, and the Waylon Jennings records, and you know, just got to really into collecting records, and we joined all the record clubs so that we could get all the current stuff, and that was back in the 60s, and it was just great. And a lot of what I do now and in my career as a songwriter, I learned from those guys, you know, listening to those, because back then you could buy a CD, well, not a CD back then, but you could buy an album and put that album on and you'd enjoy the whole thing. There was not a barker in the bunch, you know. I mean, it was, every song on there was very interesting or good, you know, which is, you know, I find myself not feeling that way about things today as much, you know, and I don't mean to put anybody down, but it's like I wish they would kind of get back to choosing material a little better so that you could put the whole album on and listen to it instead of fast-forwarding through something.
Songwriting has always been a really special part of my life. I think I started writing songs when I was about, I don't know, 8 years old. And all the years that I've been writing, I've run into some great writers, Tommy Collins and Hank Cochran and Roger Miller and people like that. And Max D. Barnes falls into that same category. I've mentioned some of my favorite writers, Chris Christopherson, and Willie Nelson's a great writer. And I find myself amazed at these people over the way they write, and I'm no less amazed with Max D. Barnes. He's something else. I've enjoyed writing some songs with him, but most of all, I've enjoyed getting to know him. He's really a neat person, and along with his wife, Patsy.
Well, let me tell you. Well, the reason I'm wearing these glasses, first of all, is because I sound good and look good in them. And I'm here to talk about Max D. Barnes. Max D. Barnes does the best imitation of Harlan Howard I've ever seen. That ain't got nothing to do with songwriting, that's hair. I mean, he went and dyed his hair that color just to be like Harlan. But Max and I have written some songs together. We wrote I've Got Heartaches Older Than You with Troy Seals, and we wrote some songs with me and Troy and Max and Willie. Now, you talk about getting it all together there. He ain't never done that.
As a matter of fact, just recently I've had the good fortune to be able to write with Merle, and which is like more than a dream come true, because I never even dreamed of anything like that happening. And you know, I'm such a big fan of his, and we did write some really neat things together. And but more than the music aspect of it, it was just knowing the man. I mean, he's such a neat guy, and he's just so at home with everybody, which, you know, once you've been a superstar like he is, I think it'd be real easy to climb into a shell and not kind of function in the world, you know. But he's not that way. He's just as down to earth as can be, and we've just had a great time, and we've laughed a lot and told a lot of old war stories, and wrote some really good songs together. So, and we're also going to write for the music for a couple of movies. One is on his life, and the other one is for a Western. And we're both cowboy freaks, you know. We both love like gunfighter type things, and have both written those kind of things. And now we're going to be able to write them together for this movie. So that's going to be pretty neat.
Why don't you try it again? Let me. I like what you're doing there.
Well, these guitars are, you know, acoustic electric, so they don't sound as loud as our other acoustic guitars, but they are nice guitars.
Mr. Atkins sent them over special.
That's right. I sure appreciate that, Chet. Yeah, this, you know, kind of like, how far can a man stretch a dollar? I thought as I counted my pay, I told myself over and over, there must be some other way.
No light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, that's it.
The whole world's falling apart.
Yeah, there we go.
And I need this load on my shoulders, like I need a hold in my heart.
Oh, I wish I'd have thought of that. On the move way back in the mountains, build a cabin nobody can find.
Try this melody.
Build a cabin nobody can find. That's better. On the move way back in the mountains, gonna leave this old city behind. Big city, little city.
Leave the old city.
Leave this old city behind. Yeah.
Gonna leave this old city behind.
Yeah, that'll work. That's good. Might ought to say something about you know, like, and how does a man hold a woman? You know,
How does a man hold? How does a man hold a woman?
yeah, like
When he's standing on
unsteady ground.
when he's standing on unsteady ground.
Yeah.
My lows are gone. When he's standing on unsteady ground.
Like she wants more than I can. She's wanting things I can't give her.
That's true.
Things that make her world go round.
Oh, yeah. Hey, we have the technology here. We can do
We
this.
ought to hook up as a team, you know what?
That's nice. What do we say there? Things that make her world go round. Here's that line. I'm trading my microwave oven for a cast iron pot-bellied stove.
Wait a minute. Let me hear that again.
I've traded my microwave oven for a cast iron pot-bellied stove.
If all I can make is a living,
Yeah.
Lord, I should have moved back a long time ago. I'm
Gonna move way back in the mountains.
build a cabin nobody can find. I'm gonna move way back in the mountains. Gonna leave this old city behind.
Yeah. That's neat, man. I got to get a pencil and paper and write all this down.
What are we
Remember
doing
we
writing
did?
without a pencil and paper?
Well,
I don't remember anything.
I'm keeping it up here, which is real dangerous.
What was we said after that? The stove?
If all I can make is a living.
Should have moved. I should have moved back. Should have moved back a long time.
Should have moved back a long time ago. Yeah. Well, that'll take care of that. You gonna cut that on this album?
You dang right I am. I think I will.
Good.
I'm gonna cut that.
Man, that sounds like, I don't know why, but every time I get around you to write, I want to go, I don't know why.
Something about you, mama, sure give me the blues. Lord, something about you, mama, sure give me the blues. Lord, it ain't your drop stitch stocking, it ain't your blue buckled shoes.
All right. I got to tell you this, man. I thought '92 I was going to have a hell of a time getting ever outdoing '92 because I had a great year.
Boy, you did.
But '93 already, and it's just early in the year, has been better even for me because of getting to write with you. And
I've enjoyed these last few days like I haven't enjoyed anything in the music business in years.
Me too. I've just been totally just on cloud nine, just being able to get to pick with you.
I've sang already so much, and I don't know if I've got any voice left for the album or not, but it's all been because we've been writing.
And laughing. We laughed a lot.
Laughing's not good for your voice. May be good for your soul, but it's not good for your voice.
Laughing goes with the writing. Writing goes with the laughing.
Well, we that one thing we got a couple of kind of funny things.
Oh yeah.
This thing that we've been together. That chicken song's funny.
That's really funny.
Born down south old chicken farm.
You're not going to chicken out now and not do that, are you?
Okay, I'll do this. Let's see.
I don't know the chords, so I'll sit back.
Well, I was born down south on chicken farm near Nashville, Tennessee. There weren't nothing there, the sky full of air, 10,000 chickens and me. One day I said, hey, 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 it's like I'll drop some vitamin C. Got real kind, blew my mind, set my chickens free. Set my chickens free, Lord, I set my chicken free. Got real kind, blew my mind, set my chickens free.
I bet you chicken out and don't do that.
Chickens in the cauliflower, chickens in the corn. We got chickens in the bedroom, and chickens in the barn. We got chickens driving Cadillacs in Washington, D.C. Got my chicken tree.
That's great.
We got a pretty good cut on that, I think.
Yeah. That feels really neat.
Sound like Roger Miller moved in the room.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. I think that was Roger sending you something from the other side. You know?
Might have been. He told me he was going to get in touch with me if there was any way possible.
I believe he did.
Him or Chuck Howard probably set up a constant communication with all the songwriters here on.
That's the truth.
Here in the town.
That's the truth. He had called and he wanted me to come out to Reno to write with him, and originally he was going to cut his album out there, but they changed plans. But I did go out and we wrote together out there, and it was really neat because I think you have location is important, I think, to write songs, because just being a different place than you're used to being will give you a little bit different perspective on things. And you know, like sometimes I go, like Vern will call and say, hey, you want to go with me this weekend? I'm going to so-and-so, you know, somewhere to do shows. And I'll go with him for a weekend or something, and we'll write. And it was probably something that we may not have gotten written here, but for the most part, I write here at the house, and I can't function in an office. I have an office if I want to use it, but I'm just not the kind of a person that can sit in an office for 8 hours a day and write music, and it's not conducive to music for me. I kind of just doing some of the mindless jobs like I do around the house here. Like yesterday, I was out hosing down my driveway, a nice mindless job, you know, and writing songs, you know. I mean, it's something you can, it's like walking and chewing gum at the same time, you know. I can do this. Or mowing my yard, you know. I think of some of the best songs I've ever written I've thought of and kind of worked out in my head while I was mowing my yard. So I don't know, we may not, shouldn't say that, or John Deere will want a cut of the money, I suppose. About 3 or 4 years ago, John Anderson and I were sitting here at my kitchen table, and we were writing this song, which later turned out to be the title of his album, which is called Too Tough to Tame. And we had written most of the song, and while we were doing this, there was an electrician here doing some work on our house, which he was up on a ladder in here installing a fan or a light or something in the ceiling, and he had been kind of quietly working away as we were, and we came up with, we had the song almost all together except for a line in the last verse. And so we had batted several things together, you know, batted these lines around, you know, and using each other as a soundboard, and still didn't have that line. And pretty soon this electrician came in and quietly came through the door and said, "Excuse me, Mr. Barnes, I couldn't help but overhear you writing your song in here." And he said, "I have that line for you." And it was, you know, John and I didn't know whether to laugh or, you know, what to do, so we kind of, and I said, "Oh, well, okay, what do you have?" And the line was not anything close to what we needed, but you know, it was hard to say anything. I just said, "Well, you know, I just don't think that's what we need, but thanks," you know. But it just proves the point that, you know, everybody likes to write in some form or fashion, and you know, I don't care who it is, whether you know, whoever it is that waits on you in a restaurant, or, you know, pumps your gas or whatever. We all like to write, and I think that's wonderful. at some of the songwriters symposiums and stuff that I've been to, and they've had me as like guest speaker and stuff. One of the main things that I want to come across with in a thing like that is to tell people, you know, don't give that up, whatever it is. Even if you never get a song recorded or anything, it's so very, very important to do it because you love to do it. You know, you got to write songs for the right reason. If you're doing it to get rich and famous, that's the wrong reason. If you do it because you love it and it's a hobby-like thing, then you do it because it's great medicine for, you know, it just makes you feel good to write. And so, the facts are that most people, the majority, is not going to get songs recorded. And that's just the brutal truth. There's only a few people, you know, that, I mean, there's a lot of songwriters that are successful, but what I'm saying, everything is relative. And when you boil it down, not very many are very successful at it. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't write.
This highway of heartache is rocky and rough, and I learned a long time ago, you can't build a fire in the ashes of love, and roses don't bloom in the snow. But down deep inside my soul, where once it was cold and dark, I feel your love take a hold, way down deep in my heart.
That's a song my son Max Troy Barnes and I wrote, and Vern Gosdin recorded it back in about 1983, and it was a big hit for Vern. And I just particularly love that song because it was one of those simple songs that just kind of fall out, and you don't know where it comes from, but you say thank you and go on. And but it kind of capsulizes also the fact of coming to Nashville with big dreams of having something happen good for you in the music business, and that was one of those. It was like one of those. It's almost like a freebie because the song almost wrote itself, and you know, it kind of is like that's kind of the way it's supposed to work when you sit down to write a song, and you hope it comes out like that. But you know, over the span of time that I've been here in Nashville, I wrote songs similar to that back in the early days when I was here, and some of those are still sitting on a shelf. That one came about 10 years after I'd been here, and it was a big hit. So you just don't know. But some songs have to have, like, they're like a fine wine or something where they don't get cut right away. They have to kind of lay around, or have a lot of people hear them, and they'll say, yeah, I know that's a hit, but what else you got? And then someday it gets cut, and which was the title cut on Randy Travis's first album called Storms of Life. That was a song that Troy Seals and I wrote together. That song was 13 years old before it was cut. It was not a single, but everybody thinks it was, you know, because of the popularity of the album, which is like just went triple platinum. And so